A clone from Zimaya, a clone from Fragrance World, and a hybrid clone from the brand of Rue Broca. Hello friends, I'm George, the nice smelling gentleman. Welcome back to the channel guys, I hope that all of you are doing well. It's time for your daily dose of some fragrance content, and as you probably know, if you see my face, you're probably gonna hear a video or a talk about clone fragrances. Today's video is a review of three very cheap, very affordable scents. The first one, as I said, comes from the brand of Zimaya. It's called Reserve Black Cedar. This one is cloning a fragrance from the brand of Nishane. The second one from Fragrance World is called Legion, and as you can probably guess, this one is a clone of a Parfum de Marly scent. And the third one from Rue Broca is actually a hybrid clone of two very famous niche scents. And the first one that I'm going to talk about is the one from Zimaya, which is called Reserved Black Cedar. This is the bottle of Reserved Black Cedar from the brand of Zimaya. It has a bit of a retro look. Now, I'm not going to bother with showing you the packaging of any of the three fragrances, but this again has a bit of an retro look to it. The cap is actually made out of oud, of real oud. It's an wooden cap, and it's true to the name of the fragrance. The whole fragrance, the whole bottle has a really nice heft, feels of good quality. The bottle size here is 100 milliliters and the concentration is EDP. Let me show you the sprayer of Zimaya's Reserved Black Cedar in action, and then I'll talk about the scent of this one. The sprayer is actually very decent, considering how cheap of a fragrance this one is. Now, this is a clone of a fragrance from the brand of Nishane, which is called Papilefico. If you're not familiar with the original fragrance, basically it's a very woody forward scent, and Reserved Black Cedar actually smells quite similar to the original scent from Zimaya. You get a lot of spiciness and a lot of woodiness in the opening of this one, with just a hint of freshness, citrusy freshness. This also smells a bit balsamic and has a bit of a green touch in the opening, and then on the dry down it becomes even more woody. There's just a hint of some ambers, giving it a bit of sweetness, a bit of a sweet touch on the dry down. Also, I personally pick up a hint of a leather note on the dry down of this fragrance, and again a lot of woodiness and some aromatic, a hint of aromatic nature as well. But basically this is a very woody scent that has a bit of citrusy freshness in the opening, has some spiciness, quite a bit of spiciness in the first few minutes, a bit of an aromatic touch, some green elements to it, and a hint of leather. It's a masculine scent that is pretty versatile and smells quite similar to the original fragrance. Of course, it cannot touch the original quality-wise. Basically, this costs around about a fifth of the price of the original scent. This is pretty cheap. I personally picked it up for something like 17-18 euros. I don't know, around about that price point. And the original one, a 50 milliliter bottle of the original one, at least around here, costs close to 100, maybe even over 100 euros. So this is basically a fifth or a sixth of the price of the original, and at that price point actually smells quite decent. Quality is decent, performance is also decent. I wouldn't call it a strong fragrance, at least personally in my experience and on my skin. This lasts for around about 6.5 to 7 hours. Projects moderately for the first hour and a half. So all around, this is not a bad fragrance on its own. Personally, it's not my most favorite personally of fragrance, because I don't like super woody scents, and at least for me personally, that mix of the green notes, the woods, and that hint of a leather note makes it a little bit hard to wear personally for me. But if you like woody forward fragrances, or if you enjoy the original one from Nishane and you're looking for something very cheap to daily drive, then you can probably give a shot to Reserve Black Cedar. Again, decent quality, decent performance, and very cheap price. Moving on to the second fragrance featured in today's video from the brand of Fragrance World, which is called Legion. Again, as you can probably guess looking at the bottle, this is a clone of a Parfum de Marly scent, and in this case this is actually a clone of Parfum de Marly's Ocean. Again, I'm not going to bother with showing you the full presentation, the box and everything. I'm just going to stick to the bottle itself. As you can see, Fragrance World have shamelessly copied the design of the original scent, of the original fragrance. Black bottle with golden accents, a logo that's very similar to the one that you get with the original. The quality of the bottle actually is quite nice, it's quite heavy in hand, and you also get a metallic cap, which is a lot lighter than the original ones from Parfums de Marly, but still it's a nice and interesting touch, along with the logo of Fragrance World on top of the cap, just like you get with the Parfums de Marly fragrance. The important stuff here, bottle size is 100 milliliters and concentration is EDP. I'll show the spray in action and then I'll talk about the scent itself. This fragrance again has a pretty decent spray, very good distribution considering how cheap it is. Now, the original one from Parfums de Marly often gets compared to a scent, another very famous niche fragrance, which is of course Kilian's Angel Share. And to be honest, I personally don't find them to smell very similar. But I know a lot of people compare them, the two original fragrances. This one smells a lot closer to Ocean rather than Angel Share. Now, the original fragrance is known for having this sweet, boozy, scent profile that has a lot of sweetness, musks, and Ocean actually recreates pretty well the original scent. Now in the opening you'll get a lot of sweetness, a lot of honey sweetness, you'll get a lot of cinnamon spiciness, you'll get a hint of greenness somewhere in the background, you'll get a bit of that boozy vibe of the original one, and also quite a bit of sweetness. Now where this actually misses the mark when it comes to closeness to the original fragrance is, first of all, it feels a lot more airy in the air. It doesn't feel as thick and as sweet as the original one from Parfums de Marly. Also the strength of the boozy note in Legion is way toned down compared to what you get with the original, but other than that, in the air it smells quite similar to the original fragrance. On the dry down becomes even more sweet, like you get with the original one, and all around this is a very decent clone of Legion, but again it misses the mark when it comes to the quality, of course, which is to be expected. No surprise there. Also, this feels more airy, it feels a little bit fresher, it just lacks the depth and the sweetness of the original fragrance, and also lacks the strength of the boozy note of the original one, but it's a good alternative, I would call it that. When it comes to performance, when I initially got this a few months ago, this actually initially was pretty disappointing when it comes to performance. The original one is quite a strong fragrance. This one was giving me around about 6 hours with very moderate projection in the first about 1 hour. But a few months of sitting on my shelves has actually helped with the performance. Nowadays this gets me about 7 hours of performance with about an hour and a half of a decent projection. Price wise, I personally paid around about 24-25 euros. At that price point, of course, it's just a fraction of the price of the original scent. And versatility wise, this is a sort of an I would call it an unisex fragrance that leans to the masculine side. It definitely is a fragrance that's more orientated towards the colder months of the year, but because it lacks that sweet touch and that depth of the original one, this actually is a little bit more versatile and can work in a warmer weather as well. And now let's move on to the third fragrance featured in today's video, which is from the brand of Rue Broca, and it's called Rue Broca Theoreme Matrix. This is a flanker to the original, Theoreme, which I'm actually a huge fan of. I really like that one. This one, as I said in the beginning of the video, feels like a hybrid clone between two very famous niche scents, and I'm talking about Creed Aventus and Nishane Hashivat. The bottle design is very similar to the one that you get with the original Theoreme, but this one has sort of a blacked out finish compared to the original one, and has a bit of an red accents at the bottom here with the sign where it says Theoreme. And I'm actually quite digging the color combination and the bottle design. It has good heft. The cap is plastic, but it's a secure fit to get a nice click, a satisfying click when you close it. The important stuff here is concentration is EDP and bottle size is 90 milliliters, just like the original Theoreme. Let me show you the sprayer in action, because it actually has a very, very decent sprayer, probably the best sprayer out of the three, and feels almost pressurized. Now the opening of this fragrance is again like a mix between Creed Aventus and Nishane Hashivat, but it leans a little bit more to the Creed Aventus side. It has the fruity opening of Creed Aventus, but this feels even more fruitier than the actual Creed Aventus. You'll get the pineapple note, you'll get the apple note, you'll get a bit of that birchiness, some of the oak moss note somewhere in the background, and it's a nice, very easy to wear, very pleasant opening. Get a hint of citruses as well, but the opening definitely, especially after some maceration, started to lean quite a bit into the side of Creed Aventus. On the dry down, this loses a bit of that sweetness from the opening and actually becomes a little bit more mossy. It has a kind of a soapy vibe as well, and on the dry down this becomes somewhere split in the middle between Creed Aventus and Nishane Hashivat, again with having a bit of that sort of a soapy vibe, which none of the original scent actually has, and this is sort of a nice added touch to the whole scent profile of Rue Broca Theoreme Matrix. It's a very masculine, very easy to wear, very versatile fragrance that I kind of like quite a lot. Initially, I wasn't really a huge fan of Matrix because you know, I just thought that, oh no, you know, we're getting yet another Creed Aventus clone. But after having this for a few months, giving it a few good wears, I started to appreciate what you know, Theoreme Matrix is actually doing. Again, it doesn't feel like a straight up clone of neither Creed Aventus or Nishane Hashivat. The opening is closer to Creed Aventus. On the dry down, it becomes a split somewhere in the middle between Creed Aventus and Nishane Hashivat. Performance wise, again, when I first got this one, it was slightly disappointing. You know, it gets a good strong opening, but then actually, you know, started to go away pretty quickly, you know, to turn more into a skin scent. And in the first few wearings, this was giving me around about the 6.5 hours mark when it comes to longevity, but a few months, fast forward a few months, and nowadays I get almost 8 hours out of it, 7.5, let's say, to be more on the safer side of total longevity, with nice projection in the first hour and a half, maybe even up to 2 hours if you overspray a little bit. Price wise, just like the OG Theoreme when it was initially launched, this is a very cheap fragrance. I personally paid around about 21-22 euros, so you know, no more than 25 US dollars. And at that price point, actually, I think this is a pretty decent deal. And versatility wise, of course, having that Creed Aventus and Nishane Hashivat DNA, this is a super versatile scent that just works all year round and will get you a lot of compliments. And so guys, in today's video, I reviewed 3 cheap clone fragrances, one of them feeling like a hybrid clone, the other 2 feeling like straight up clones from Zimaya, Fragrance World and Rue Broca. I hope that you found this video interesting or helpful. If you did, give it a like, and I also hope that you're going to join me tomorrow for your daily dose of some fragrance content. And until then, stay safe and bye bye.